This is my single case analysis presentation for methods of assessment, and my name is Paige Howell. So, Sarah's parent, I just wanted to quickly discuss some of Sarah's assessment data and what that means. I recognize that usually parents don't really understand the meaning behind a lot of these scores that they receive for their child. Usually, the statewide standardized tests that they take, parents really just know that their kid needs to get a good night's sleep beforehand and that they need to make sure that they eat a good breakfast. So, real quick, just a summary. Sarah's obviously in fifth grade. She doesn't have any disabilities. She doesn't have limited English proficiency. And she has some really great scores here. So, talking about the STAR scores, STAR is a test that assesses their reading and math understanding against their peers. So, with Sarah, it shows us in the 2018-2019 school year, when she took the STAR exam in these three intervals, it provides a benchmark in August, December, and April, showing us where that student lies in terms of their understanding of reading and math content. So in August of 2018, she scored in the 92nd percentile. In December of that year, she scored in the 99th percentile, and the same in April, 99th percentile. So really, really great scores in terms of that. For math, she started a little bit lower in August of 2018 in the 87th percentile, got herself up to the 96th percentile in December, and then dropped a bit down to the 77th percentile in April. And I'll explain a little bit more of what that means as we go on. Another statewide assessment she takes is the FSA, which stands for Florida Statewide Assessment. She takes that in English language arts and math. So again, it's just another way for us to test how they're developing in terms of their English language arts skills as well as math. So very similar to the STAR exam. This gives us a developmental score as well as an achievement level. Developmental meaning that is what she earned in terms of the raw points that she earned from the exam. So if she was given 100 questions worth 2 points each and she got 105, that kind of deal. So those scores are then grouped and organized by achievement level. So the FSA scores go from 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. So you'll see Sarah's achievement level of 4 shows that she is close to that top rank of 5 for the 2017-2018 school year. 3 is what we consider grade level proficient for the FSA. So she's above her peers in the 2017-2018 school year for ELA, English Language Arts. And then in the 2018-2019 school year, she made substantial progress and got up to a level 5 achievement with a developmental score of 361. So she reached that highest achievement level, which is awesome. Same thing with math. 2017-2018, she earned a score of 363, which got her into the achievement level 5. So top marks for her in that year. Then 2018-2019, she also earned a level 5 with a score of 354. Okay. Moving on, just to kind of explain some of her data a bit further from English Language Arts. Again, grade level proficiency in the FSA would result in a level 3 score. Her getting a 4 in the 2017-2018 school year showed us that she has an above average understanding of this content, which was also very prominent in her scoring in the STAR exam in the 2018-2019 school year. So then looking at her scores from the 2018-2019 school year for the FSA, you'll see that she made a gain of 12 points on her developmental score, which got her into the top achievement level of 5. So it shows that she made great progress. She was already a really high scoring student. So for her to make even further progress with that is awesome. I have no concerns that she stayed in the 99th percentile between December and April in the 2018-2019 school year on her STAR exam. That is awesome. It's extremely difficult to get to the 100th percentile, and it's extremely difficult to stay in the 99th. So that really just shows Sarah's strengths in terms of English language arts content. Really, really awesome, solid scores that shows she's truly top tier when it comes to that content. Then we have math. So again, really great understanding of math, earned an achievement level of 5 in both the 2017-2018 school year and 2018-2019 on the FSA. You will notice that she did decrease in her developmental score from a 363 to a 354. So she earned 363 in the 2017-2018 school year and dropped to a 354 for the 2018-2019 school year, showing that she could be struggling a little bit more with getting to harder curriculum. But also, it could be something as simple as sometimes when students aren't being challenged in their class because they have such a high understanding above grade level proficiency, they can become complacent and bored with that sort of thing. But when we look at her STAR scores, she was originally in the 2018-2019 school year. In August of 2018, she was in the 87th percentile, which is great. Again, when you're looking at peers, the average is going to fall right about 50%, right? So her being at 87th shows she's well above the understanding of her peers. Furthering that, she moved to the 96th percentile in December, which is absolutely incredible. Shows that even though she was that higher level of the 87th percentile, she made gains to the 96th percentile, which is absolutely amazing. But then if you look at April, she dropped down to the 77th percentile. That's a loss of almost 20%, which isn't great. Again, she's outscoring her peers, but it shows that her peers are gaining progress. They're gaining that knowledge, whereas she is essentially, she might be staying at the same level of knowledge, but she's not progressing like them. So while she might be still understanding, still outscoring them, it's showing that she is not gaining as much as she previously was. It's showing that she's not advancing at the same rate with this content that her classmates are. So, again, just going off of that, it shows us that Sarah has a really great understanding of English language arts. I have absolutely no concerns about her moving up in her education in terms of that. I think she's doing a wonderful job. Again, she's not going to grow much at such a high level. Going from the 99th percentile to the 100th, even though it's 1%, it's an extremely difficult percent to gain. So her staying in the 99th percentile is absolutely awesome. I think she should be commended for that. And yeah, she's truly very strong in that content area, and it shows. Then again, with math, she gained on the STAR exam between August and December, and then dropped in April. So just to reiterate, it's not saying that she is now below her peers or anything like that. She's still well above average. She's still well above that 50th percentile mark. But it's telling us that she might risk falling behind them. She needs to be continuing making those gains, having that growth in the content areas. And if we look back, the STAR exam does show us a bit better her understanding throughout the school year, and engaging her with that content because it has those three benchmarks. Whereas if you look at the FSA score, she earned an achievement level, which is, again, the top achievement level between 2017, 2018, and 2018, 2019. So in that sense, it's not something that would really show us that she might be struggling a bit. So the STAR exam really assists with this, making sure that we can intervene as quickly as necessary. So Sarah, in terms of her achievement against her peers. So with her FSA scores, she is well above the state and district standards for proficiency in both English language arts and math. You'll see in the data below, we have her FSA ELA, again, ELA meaning English language arts, her developmental scores and achievement levels for both the 2017-2018 and 2018-2019 school years. And then we also have that same data for the math FSAs. So you'll notice, just to reiterate, the FSA ELA scores, she went from an achievement level of 4 to an achievement level of 5 between the two school years, which is awesome. And then in math, she maintained a level 5. Her developmental score in the 2018-2019 school year was slightly below that of the 2017-2018 school year. So the FSA is a criterion reference and norm reference exam, meaning the criterion reference, that's what you're going to see in the developmental score. It's based on a certain set of criteria that she needs to meet. So she earned a 349 that first test in 2017-2018. So it's based on mastery. She hit that score. She was above proficient in terms of her raw score of 349. Then norm referenced exam means it's compared against her peers. So with the FSA, what they do is they take those student scores, and then based on those averages and those scores that students get, they'll assign the achievement levels for those scores, if that makes sense. So essentially, they look at the data that they get from students based on those developmental scores, which are based on like the number of questions they got right, how many points those questions were worth. And then they assign an achievement level based on how their other peers are scoring. So you'll see here that in the 2017-2018 school year, which is the image on the right, Sarah was in the level 4 category for English language arts. So you can see where her grade fell and her score was in that range. And then in math for that year, she was in level 5. So you'll see where her score fell in that as well. She was well within the range of achieving a level 5 in math. So she wasn't right on the threshold, which is great. Then if we look at the 2018-2019 school year, which is the image on the left, you'll see where her scores fell as well during that. So just to reiterate, in the 2018-2019 school year, she earned a 5 in both English language arts and math. So you'll see with English language arts, she fell well within that range, not right on the threshold. And mathematics, even though her score dropped, she was still comfortably at a level 5. So going on to the STAR data. This is not based on mastery like the FSA test is. This is based on how her peers are scoring. It's her score against them. That's how we assign percentiles. So with that being said, you'll see all her scores are green, which based on this shows she's at or above benchmark for that exam. And we can see very clearly she was in the 92nd percentile, then the 99th, and stayed in the 99th for reading through the 2018-2019 school year. Math, she started at the 87th, went up to the 96th, and then dropped a bit to the 77th. This shows that even though her math score did drop, she is still above that benchmark. She's still doing better than majority of her peers. So because of Sarah's advanced understanding in English language arts content, I would recommend when she moves up to grade 6 to put her in a higher reading level, if that's possible. Her being at a grade level her being at a grade level class is going to keep her bored, if you will. It's going to make it so she's not challenged. She's well above that level of understanding. And that can cause her to become complacent. And if she is complacent in that, she won't be scoring as high as she has been. If she becomes complacent, isn't engaging with the content, she isn't going to be in the 99th percentile, more than likely. I mean, obviously there's a chance, but she won't be making that same amount of growth that she has been. So putting her into a higher class is going to challenge her more, and it's going to keep her performing at that high level. Then for math, since she did drop a bit in her understanding between December and April, I'm going to recommend that she get some further practice. So teachers are usually extremely willing to provide extra practice opportunities for a student, especially if that student or parent reaches out, myself included. So I would recommend that she just gets a little more practice with that math content. At this point, I don't think that she needs any alternative means of assessment. She has great understanding of English. She doesn't have any kinds of disabilities. She does test well above her peers. I think it's just a means of getting her a little bit more practice with that math content. And we all know as grade levels go on, math becomes more difficult, as does every subject. So it's important that we intervene now as to make sure that Sarah does not fall behind, her test scores don't drop, that sort of thing. So teachers allowing for formative assessments, formative meaning it's kind of an as we go sort of thing. So these would be like worksheets and projects, stuff like that, that allow teachers to tell how their students are understanding as you go through a chapter. What we call summative assessments, that is essentially sums up a whole unit or a whole chapter. So that's like the end point where we see how they understood everything. So creating more formative assessments for those math classes is going to allow the teachers to see how Sarah is progressing. And if we see that a student is not progressing or falling behind from where they previously were, it allows teachers to intervene and help that student succeed. So seeing that Sarah decreased in her progress in math would allow us to go and make an early intervention plan that could be something as simple as just providing extra practice opportunities for Sarah. So going off of that, like I said, this isn't something to be super concerned about. Sarah is a very, very high achieving student. She is at the top of her class. It's not something that I'm particularly stressed about. You most certainly should not be stressed about her progress. She's extremely bright. It just becomes a matter of keeping her as a high achieving student.